Hello, everyone. So if you're joining us now, please go to the group chat. As a student, type in your name, type in the school that you're from, and we're going to go ahead and get started here today. We have our three panelists and students joining in. So thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Josh Jones. I'm Senior Regional Program Manager with Enactus. And today's webinar is going to be a really great opportunity for you and your teams to ask our panel of experts direct advice on how to maximize your Expo experience before, during, and after the event. We have this very special guest, these panelists have a lot of experience and expertise in career prep, and knowing how to sell yourself, knowing how to talk to prospective companies. So definitely take advantage of this, ask the questions. We'll be asking a lot of questions of them. We have these great partners from Walmart, Robert Half, and Gartner. Today's session will be a panel style discussion. So please be thinking of your questions, and as you have them, type your questions into the group chat, and we'll ask those questions to the panelists. So type your question, the school, and your name. So in today's webinar, as I mentioned, we're going to be discussing Expo. So before we get started, I'm going to publish a poll, because I'd like to get a sense of who is in the audience. So you're going to see a poll pop up, and if you could just answer that briefly. It's graduation date and a couple of questions about internship and whether or not you have a job. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Going in reverse alphabetical order, I'd like to introduce Tamara Welch from Gartner. Tamara is the Senior Director of Campus Recruiting with Gartner, where she is in charge of college recruiting across North America. In this role, she combines her campus recruiting experience and Gartner resources to provide strategy, advice, counsel, and support internally to find top college talent. Tamara is a trusted advisor by listening, understanding, and then executing recruiting strategies based on business needs. Her goal is to bring new and creative ideas on how to engage talent across North America. She's been able to expand the Gartner footprint on college campuses, going from 7 target schools to over 150. Tamara's attended 8 national expos, 2 World Cups, and many regional events. She's also participated in many BABs across the country. Tamara, thank you for joining us today. Would you please share a little bit more about Gartner, about yourself, and your relationship with Enactus?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Josh. So Gartner is the leading research and advisory company, providing senior leaders across major enterprises with insights, advice, and tools they need to achieve their goals and priority. We work with about 75 or 73% of Global 500 companies and over 100 companies, and we serve, Gartner serves over 15,000 client organizations around the world. My team, as Josh mentioned, went from going from 7 target schools to 150. When I started Gartner about 4 years ago, we were hiring about 80 students from colleges, and now we're hiring over 900 between interns and full-time in North America alone, and over 1,000 globally. We're hiring for sales, service, finance, accounting, IT, research, consulting, so all across the board. So really excited to see the growth of Gartner and also our campus recruiting team. And again, been involved with Enactus, as Josh mentioned, been to 8 national expos. So really excited to be here and speak to you all today, so you can learn from us, how to utilize your time at the Enactus Expo.
So one question that I think we'll just get into right off the bat here, because I think yesterday we didn't get to it, but in speaking about your company, what are some of you mentioned some of the types of jobs that you're hiring. Are all those jobs applicable, like Enactus students? Is that what you're hiring, or is there a certain type of job that you see that Enactus students or recent college grads are applicable for?
Yeah, So Gartner's been involved with Enactus for 2 years. Our main profile that we're typically hiring for or have been hiring for since I started was sales. So we've seen a lot of Enactus go into sales. Now, over the past year, I took on all the other areas that want to get into campus recruiting, such as service, accounting, finance, IT. I know from going to Enactus for several years that we can find that talent. And again, we look at traits. So what is the student looking for? What kind of background do you have? Are you looking for more of a technical job? Are you looking for more of an analytical job or research-based job? Or are you looking for sales? Or are you looking for client services? So again, I think we have an opportunity for every Enactus student depending on what they're looking for.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you, Tamara, for being on the panel today. We look forward to having more questions with you about maximizing the Expo experience. Next, I'd like to introduce Paul McDonald from Robert Half. Paul is a Senior Executive Director at Robert Half, which specializes in the placement of professionals in the accounting, finance, technology, legal, creative, and administrative fields. He writes and speaks frequently on hiring, workplace, and career management topics. Over the course of 30 years in the recruiting field, Paul has advised thousands of company leaders and job seekers on how to hire and get hired. Paul is also a member of the Enactus United States National Advisory Board, where he serves in an advisory role to help lead and advance Enactus United States. Paul, thank you for joining us today. And the same question to you, would you just explain a little bit more about yourself, Robert Half, and your relationship with Enactus?
Yes, thank you. Pleasure to be here today. Excuse me. Robert Half is a New York Stock Exchange listed, publicly traded staffing company. What that means is for the past 70 years, we've supplied companies worldwide with temporary to hire, and direct hire placement services. When I started, the company was about a $40 million business. That was 35 years ago. We're about a $7 billion a year business today. We also have a subsidiary called Protiviti that's very active in hiring as well. So all in, we are looking to add to our 17,000 employee base in all areas. We need technology people, accounting, finance. We need individuals that are focused on human resources within our internal entity. That would be the service centers and everything to help support our 400 offices globally. In those 400 offices globally, as I mentioned, we provide staffing services to clients and to job seekers. Within those branches, we're always looking for recruiters, and we're looking for sales or business development help as well. That's where I started after a career with Price Waterhouse. So having said that, and the fact that we've been involved with Enactus for over a decade, I've been personally involved for over 5 years, attended only one World Cup and 3 U.S. Expos, in addition to other partnership meetings where I get to really feel the energy of this organization. And the first time I went into one of those partner meetings, it was in Chicago at a partner headquarters. And I could just tell from the students that were presenting to us as partners and the brain trust of the U.S. entity of Enactus, that it was just, they were there to learn. They were there to be involved in a socially responsible organization as Enactus. They had a cause, and they had superior soft skills compared to many of the students that I've run up against. And by being involved with Enactus, they've honed the soft skills, which are so important to employers today, like the panelists and all of the companies that are involved. We find that it's a differentiator when you can hone those soft skills. Yes, it's very important to have a good GPA and a field of study, but that's what, in my opinion, and that's what in many recruiters' opinion, that gets you the audition or that gets you the interview. The soft skills get you the job. So the more you can do to hone, the more you can do to get involved with Enactus and make the presentations, the better off you'll be in your career.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Thanks again for being a part of this panel. We look forward to diving into many more questions about career search and Expo involvement. So I'm just going to do a quick reminder, some of the students who have joined. In the chat box, please type your name and your school so you can introduce yourself. We've also pushed out a poll that I'm going to end up finishing here after speaking to Kristin, but please introduce yourself and name your school. So now on to our third panelist, Kristin Ciabattari from Walmart. Kristin is the Enactus program manager for Walmart and Sam's Club. Her current job duties include managing the Enactus relationship and overseeing global events with a focus on bringing Enactus talent into all parts of the Walmart organization, to include home office, logistics, store, and club operations. Kristin develops the Walmart Enactus recruiting strategy and works closely with Walmart Giving to determine Enactus funding. Kristin's support of Enactus has taken her all over the U.S. and world for the last 6 years. She's attended 5 U.S. national expos, 6 World Cups, and numerous regional competitions and fall conferences. She's also a member of the Enactus Talent Acquisition Advisory Group. Kristin, thanks for joining us today. Would you please share a little more about yourself and Walmart and the relationship with Enactus?
Sure. So Walmart's had a relationship with Enactus for almost 35 years. It started with our founder, Mr. Sam, and the relationship that he created with Enactus, and it still continues today. Our current CEO, Doug McMillan, was also very involved with Enactus for many years until he took over as CEO. So it's an organization that we've supported from site through to current day. Some of the ways that we support Enactus is through our global foundation, like you mentioned. So some of the things that we support are like the fall training conferences that have taken place over the last couple of years. We're excited that this year we'll be sponsoring 5 of those training conferences. So we're hoping to announce very shortly where those conferences will be across the U.S. Come October. And hopefully those of you that are on the call will be able to attend one this coming fall. The other thing that we do to support Enactus is we hire a lot of students. So each year we hire close to 100 students or more into all parts of our organization. It might be into our store or club operations in your local community, where you can do an internship or a full-time management training program, or you can come to our home office as an intern or full-time. We also hire into our logistics and distribution centers. So pretty much every part of our business has hired Enactus students. We find that they're very successful once they get here to Walmart. It's a very good culture fit with our organization, and they're usually just very successful while they're here.
Great. Well, thank you, Kristin, for your support, and thanks for being on this panel today. We look forward to diving into some more of these questions. So I'm going to finish the polling here. It looks as though we've got some spring 2020, summer, fall 2020, and quite a few of you out there without an internship or a job at this point. So you're at the right place to be gathering more information about how to understand to change that into having that internship. I'm going to go ahead and publish a second poll now. And so this is going to look at some of the things of, what are the parts of the resume that you struggle with? What are some of the parts of the career fair that you find challenging? And then how clear are you about the type of job that you're, the type of job and company that you're looking for after graduation? So we're going to go ahead and get on to our first questions about Expo. And these questions are going to get into the topic of what can I do as a student from today until the actual Expo event itself. So I'll just go ahead and kind of, lead that question of just starting out broadly of what are some of those best ways that students can focus their time in preparing for a successful Expo. So Tamara, I'll hand it back over to you and see if just what are the things that students can do at this point. They've got a month. what can they be doing to focus their success and their time so they can go in with momentum and confidence?
Yeah, I would focus on what are the outcomes that you want to have, right? So what are you looking to gain out of your experience at Enactus? Is it making connections? Is it to, you know, get a job? Is it, you know, you're presenting? So again, any of that, you know, look at preparing for that. I would say do your due diligence and you know, research all the companies that are there, who's there, and I talk to everyone, network with everyone. So again, preparing of who's going to be there, doing that research, who do you want to meet, making sure we're going to talk a little bit more about your resume. Your resume is ready to go with all the experiences that you've had, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth on that. But again, you know, what's your why and what's your outcome so that you can make the most out of the Enactus competition.
Thank you. Thank you. Paul, what would you like to add about this? There's a month. Students are thinking, you know, how best can they focus their time? They're going to have finals, but they want to head in with confidence and momentum. So what would you suggest they do to go in and be prepared and have that confidence?
Right. Thanks for bringing up the fact that they're going into finals at the end of the semester. So
yeah,
it kind of frames it. And building on what Tamara said, I would say, you know, carve out time between now and you leave for Expo through all the busy schedule that you have, and make sure that you're researching the companies and the speakers that are going to be present at the event. I say this to everyone on my staff that goes to either career networking events or to any type of an event. Know who's going to be there in advance, what the companies do, and who those individuals are that are planned to be there. That could go from anyone on this panel. Look at the LinkedIn profile. Look at the company cause, the services, the hard goods that they provide, whatever they do for their business purpose. Dig into some of the news items that are on the websites of the companies that are going to be present. And I'll say this research and this time that you put in is going to go a long way. You'll never know who you're going to run into. Yes, you can chart out who you're going to meet at the career fair, or what companies you're going to go seek out at their booths and so forth. But sometimes you'll be in the lobby or in the coffee line waiting to get a cup of coffee, and you'll run into somebody, and you know everyone's very outgoing, so you'll shake hands. It would be really nice if you ever ran into an executive to leave an impression. You run into one of our personnel, the companies here, one of ours, leave an impression. And you'll never know where that's going to get you, because if you can differentiate yourself from the crowd in any way, it gives you an opportunity to not only, you know, maybe you already have a career plan and an opportunity after graduation, but you'll never know when that might come back to your benefit 2 years from now or 3 years from now when needed. So that's my words of advice in terms of preparation to going into Expo.
Thanks, Paul. It kind of reminds me, I was actually a freshman or sophomore at a SIFE Expo a long time ago and ran into, just in the hallway, I believe he was an executive with Coke in Bentonville, working with the Walmart headquarters, and you know, just got into a conversation, and he explained they sold something like $2 billion of product to Coke. And I think at the time, being a sophomore, I definitely never met an executive of kind of that level. And just to have that access and be on the spot to be able to have that conversation, you just really never know who you'll run into and when the conversation will come up. So really good advice there. So leading into that, Kristin, what advice do you have for students just to really try to maximize this time that they have between now and Expo to build confidence and momentum?
Well, I mean, I think Tamara and Paul kind of hit on the main points, but I would say just to add on to it, Enactus has on their website all the different companies that will be in the career fair. So make sure that you go out there and look at all those companies. Make sure that you're checking it somewhat regularly. You know, there might be another company or two that gets added in the next couple of weeks. So look at that list that they have posted out there for you. Do your research on the companies. Make sure you make a schedule and a plan for when you're going to be in a career fair versus when you're going to be maybe with your team and practicing, so that you're making the most of pockets of time that you might have, whether it's 2 hours the first day in the morning and then 2 hours again in the afternoon because your team is competing right around lunchtime or something like that. Make a schedule for yourself of when you're going to be going into the career fair. And then finally, I would say when you're doing your research on the companies, look into some of the jobs that they have currently posted, whether they have rotational programs and where those rotational programs are, where their corporate offices are, the positions in the corporate office, are they out in the field somewhere, so that you have an understanding of where the jobs are located that might interest you.
Great, thank you. Staying with you, Kristin, and having the first question, kind of like we did yesterday, we'll go into the resume, and we actually, in this poll that we posted, there's a question: what's the part of the resume that the students struggle with the most? And for these students, the big ones were feeling as though they have a lack of direct or relevant experience, which I'll give a plug for Enactus for that. That is really how use Enactus, use that leadership experience. But then an interesting one is the selling your impact versus the duties, just kind of saying what they've done compared to what the job title is. Using language that fits the job requirements, and then being concise. That was one that pops up. But what advice would you give, Kristin, for students that have a resume that they might think it's good, but they know it's not yet great? How can they take it up to the next level?
Well, I would say have as many people as possible look at it. Take your resume to career services, have them look over it and give you some suggestions. A lot of times career services have like templates that they can recommend to you, or you can go online just Googling, resume templates. So I've seen some really well laid out resumes, and I've seen some not very well laid out resumes. So I would look at as many different templates as you can online or that other people have, and find one that is, that you feel comfortable with, but that it's very, when you're a recruiter and you look at a lot of resumes every day, it's nice to have like spaces for your eye to rest and different things like that, and very consistent spacing. And so you'll really pay attention to how your resume is formatted. You want to make sure there's absolutely no misspelled words on it. As far as how you can really get your experience across, I mean, there are, especially if you're like, say, a sophomore, you might not have a lot of work experience, especially like in a corporate environment or that. Make sure that you're using your Enactus experience to put in there almost as if it were a job, because a lot of the students are spending hours every week, which adds up to a lot of time. It's almost like this is a part-time job for you. Put that in there. I've even seen resumes of some students at events that don't even have Enactus on their resume. And I don't know why you wouldn't put it on your resume, especially if you have leadership skills, you're a project manager, you're working on projects. Make sure you're talking about the outcomes. If you help to train, economically disadvantaged women, how many women did you train? How many hours did you train them? What was the impact of the training? How many of those found jobs? What percentage of them found better jobs? Anything you can do to quantify the results that you had is very helpful. That's kind of what I would say to help focus on. And again, reach out to your career services. They can help you with the wording and the formatting of all that.
Thank you.
Let's say, Tamara, in addition to that, look at the jobs that you're interested in and look at their job descriptions. And again, take that people that you know and say, okay, this is my work experience, this is what I've done, or this is my classroom experience, my Enactus experience. What can be somewhat relatable to this, so you can start to build your resume off saying, okay, they're looking for these soft skills or hard skills or whatever it may be, and these are what's relatable, because it's not going to be apples to apples because you're still learning, or it might be something you learned in a class that you're not thinking about, or could have came from a sorority, fraternity, sports, that could be relatable, and maybe you're just not thinking through that. So again, look at the job descriptions of the type of roles that you're looking for and what the qualifications are, and then look at what you've done to kind of relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend, is it a good practice to customize the resume based on the job that they're applying for, to tweak it, or maybe there's certain skills that one job requires over the other, or to just have a kind of master document to go from?
Well, my experience has been you customize the cover letter to the job that you're replying to, and you tweak the resume to adjust to the position. So as I've been saying, I think I said it yesterday when we did this, the resume is a living and breathing document. It's always changing, it's always evolving. You're gaining new skills all the time. So don't think that once you are finished, potentially in January with your resume, that's going to be good through your whole job search. There's things, for instance, that were just brought up by the other panelists that you're doing in Enactus that are always going to be adding to that. So tweaking the resume and making customizations for the job that you're applying to is very acceptable. One thing I see that's often left off the resume, and I just want a word of advice, is most individuals that are in this demographic, Generation Z, take for granted the technology skills that they have because they're digital. You are digital natives, so don't take that for granted. Accentuate that, because that really is table stakes today for all positions. It can differentiate you. So not only the soft skills that we've chatted about, the job, the job either professional or other that you've had. Putting your education first with your GPA, that's very important as well, with the major, and expected graduation date. But it's that piece on the technology that I continue to see that it's just, very small print, or it's an afterthought. But if you've got Excel at the intermediate level, put it out there. If you've got PowerPoint, even if you're using Access or if you used any database, it's very important to any position that you're going to be involved in today in small, mid, or large company atmospheres.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good advice, especially if it's something that's kind of in a blind spot with students that they're just not thinking to put on. So kind of going off of the resume, and I know we discussed this, the differences between the resume and LinkedIn, but Tamara, could you explain a little bit, like what are ways that students can use LinkedIn as a complement to the resume, and how, is it just a copy and paste? Should they be pretty similar? What are some good strategies for using LinkedIn as a benefit to the job search process?
Yeah, I would definitely have, I wouldn't say word for word, like bullet point like your resume, so it doesn't look like a resume, but it should speak to your experiences, what you're looking for. So it depends if you already have a job or you're looking for a job. You can change your main, I guess it's your tagline in LinkedIn, join different groups. Again, getting references from your professors and what clubs and organizations. So again, I would definitely have a full profile on LinkedIn of your experiences that you had. Because again, hopefully you're going to be linking in with several of the other students that you're meeting, professors, companies, leaders in these organizations. And again, you don't want to go with a blank page, but it should tell a story about your background and your experiences. So a little high level, but and again, I always say through LinkedIn, you want to join groups and companies and stuff like that, so then they can see how active you are, because again, a lot of companies, and it varies by company, but a lot of companies will look up candidates on LinkedIn, not just only on your resume. So think about your resume's one page. You can add a ton of stuff to LinkedIn, and some companies want to see, how LinkedIn are you with other folks within your industry or within Enactus or whatnot. So again, definitely make sure you're building that out and connecting with folks.
Kristin, I know you said yesterday with Walmart that you have a different approach, that it's maybe for the college graduate applicant, it's not something that you emphasize, but could you just share again kind of how you view it and just how you would suggest that students or start to build that and start to use and leverage that resource?
Yeah, so at Walmart for our campus recruiting, we don't usually use LinkedIn as a sourcing tool. They do use it for our senior level positions. Once you get to like a director, senior manager type role, they're out there looking for the talent that they're looking for. We find our talent for campus when we actually go to campus or when we come to organization events like Enactus. But I would definitely recommend that you use LinkedIn as like Tamara said, like as a linking tool. So so that you can go out there and see, maybe you can search for what alumni from Enactus are currently working at Walmart and what parts of the business they're looking at. If you come into the booth, you meet some different people from Walmart, get their name or even ask them if you can connect with them on LinkedIn and then send them a request after the event so that you're building your network. You never know when that can come in handy at a later date to reach out and connect with them. And then also you can use it as a tool. If you come into our booth and you know that you have an interview the next day with, say, one of our associates, find out the name of the associate, go out to LinkedIn and look them up, maybe even connect with them ahead of time with like a short note saying, I'm excited to meet with you tomorrow for our interview. Look forward to talking to you. That way you're building your connection, you're understanding who your interviewer is and the background and the experience that they have. And that helps you create a connection and you might have things in common with them. So that will help with the interview process as well.
Thank you. Paul, I know there's been a lot covered about LinkedIn. I'm going to have the next question to you about.
If I can just add one thing on LinkedIn, and it's
please do.
Please, because I agree with everything that was just said from Tamara and Kristin. Just make sure that you understand that this is a professional networking database, and therefore that means to have a professional picture and photo. So, like you will dress for success when you go to Expo with your professional attire, that's a good opportunity to have someone with, and the phones today, be it Android or Apple product, are so spectacular. You can get a really good headshot to put on your LinkedIn profile, which may be different from the headshot or what you have on your Facebook page or Instagram. So just know that this is a professional networking site, and don't make the mistake we've seen others make where it's too casual around the pool at maybe spring break.
Yeah. That's good advice. So Paul, one question I'll start with you that we didn't get to yesterday, but I see from the poll that we have, still have understandably some students that they're not really sure the type of job or even the company that they want to pursue after graduation. So what do you say to the student who doesn't have that confidence? I had some peers and classmates that they had like laser focus. They knew the job and the company, and I wasn't necessarily that confident even going into my junior, senior year. What can they do? I guess, first of all, is it okay to kind of not completely know? And then what steps can they take to at least becoming more confident or having a better sense?
It's quite okay not to know.
Okay.
It really is. And I didn't know that back in my day. I thought I had to know when I was 18. And so I chose accounting, and I trudged through 4 years of accounting, and I was heck bent to get that job. I got the job, a few offers. But here I am, 35 years later, after my 3-year accounting career, with a recruitment and staffing firm that's led to, who knows, so many opportunities that I've had. I can't count the number of jobs I've had in 35 years within this company. So having said that, if you don't know, that's okay, but be curious. One of the best qualities we see with individuals on campus or shortly after campus that aren't familiar with where they want to go is the curiosity. They're asking good questions. Paul, what led you to where you are today? How did you find your way? Tell me about the company. What type of opportunities are there for someone with a background like mine? What would you suggest additional training I might need in order to move forward in this path? It's quite all right. You might start out in marketing. I'll speak to, one of my children. Started out with a degree in marketing, decided that wasn't for her in a short period of time, took time off. It was 1 year, and she came back and said, I know what I want to do. So she got her master's in family therapy, and now she's a therapist. Who knows what the journey is going to lead to, but be curious, investigate, research, ask a lot of questions, keep an open mind, and you will find your path.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so good advice, students. If you don't know, that's okay. Don't let that hold you back. Go still talk to all the companies at the career fair. So Kristin, Tamara, anything that you would want to add to that, just I guess about, finding your path or to the student who isn't really sure, just any advice or tips?
Mm-hmm. I mean, first of all, I agree with absolutely everything Paul just said. I think sometimes it's almost, when a student comes into our booth and they're really laser focused on exactly what they want to do, and that's the only thing they want to do, if I don't have a job like that available for them, then there's not really a lot we can do then, right? Because if that's the only thing that they're set on doing, that limits their opportunities. So the more that you're open and, like Paul said, just curious about, like, here's my background, where can that lead to? What are some other opportunities? How did you get here? So that's a great way just to understand the company, the culture of the company, and just being curious to talk to different people in the booth. Say, okay, you're a district manager. How did you get to that? What was your background? Why do you like what you do? And then going and talking to somebody who works in ISD, this IT area, to say, what was your background? How did you get there? What do you do? That's just, I think, a good way to learn a lot and keep your options open.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. This is Tamara. I think you can go both ways, and I love both everything that Paul and Kristin said, because again, you want to be curious, and that's one of the traits we actually look for at Gartner, is being curious, asking questions. Mm-hmm. But I think it could go both ways. Like, if you are, again, that's part of doing your research before you get there, what companies are there and what jobs they have, because if you walk up to me and say, I want a sales job, I get excited because I want people that want sales jobs. But again, if they don't have it, being curious and asking questions and knowing, what are the things that you are looking for in a job? What are you passionate about, to understand, and how can they relate to some of these roles, or at least knowing, like, I want something business focused, or I want something tech focused. So understanding that a little bit about what you're looking for, or pieces of what you're looking for, so that way that recruiter or that company can say, okay, I have jobs that kind of relate to some of those passions or skills that you do have, and here's that path for you. So I think you can go both ways of, it's good if a company's there and they're hiring for a specific role, to say, I want this role, because again, sales can be a tough career, so we want people who want sales, but then are also curious about that sales role. But again, there's other opportunities that some of these companies have that you have to be open to think, okay, what skills can I bring to some of these other roles?
So just a reminder as well to the students on the call, feel free, if there's any questions or any follow-up, something that I haven't asked, please type the question into the chat box, ask your question, your school, and your name, and we'll answer that question, or we'll ask that question to the panelists. So we're going to go ahead and move on into this portion actually of Expo, and go into some of the events, and then that way we'll know that we've definitely got time to really go into the career fair component of it. So we're going to speak briefly about some of the events that you can engage in that might not be as directly related to networking with some of the partner companies. And we'll first jump into the competition portion. So for those of you on the presentation team or on the competition team, it's a really great opportunity to showcase your strengths and showcase your skills. It's not really the kind of open format necessarily for direct networking, but the preparation and the professionalism of how you present, how you speak, definitely the outcomes of your team, those are really important. So, you know, as it is with any team coming in more practiced, it's just going to lead to more confidence and a feeling that you've got it under control, and you're going to be able to let that enthusiasm and confidence shine through. One of the other tips that some teams leave out, and it's a great opportunity, is to have that team bio. So it's recommended that it's a supplement to the annual report. And some teams will publish a bio with all their members, and others will just focus on those members on the presentation team. And it's a helpful document that's going to say, you know, that Josh Jones is a junior marketing major graduating in spring of 2020. And there's recruiters, there's companies that are in the audience that might see you and really want to follow up and talk. So take advantage of that bio and, you know, be sure to have that. Panel, is there anything that you'd want to add? Any thoughts?
I would just add that we love getting those bios. Usually we have a judge in every room, and I try to ask them to bring those bios back to me. Sometimes they bring the annual report as well, but we do really like to look at those bios and see who's on the team and when they're graduating, and trying to, especially if it's a degree that we're really searching for, and try to reach out if possible.
Yeah, I would say to pick up Kristin, making sure you have your name, your degree when you're graduating. Emails are always helpful, and if you have a job or not. And again, not having the presenters, but also having the rest of your team in those bios, so that way the companies can really look at that and engage with you too as well.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to share this. This was a comment that we had from Heather Berger from Pittsburgh State University. So she talks about how she went to nationals 2 years ago and didn't know what company or job she was looking for, but went through and literally talked to every single recruiter just to make connections, and actually found one that sat down and talked with her to learn the strengths. She said they stayed in contact and even kind of became sort of a mentor. And so it's even though that's not the company she's working for, it was just really encouraging for her. So I think that's a good, thanks for sharing that. It's a good reminder as well that, I think as a student that recruiters and these companies don't be intimidated. They're there for a reason, and they want to talk to you. So, and even you might be completely surprised, because I'm sure that, Heather wasn't necessarily looking for, they're expecting to find a mentor, but it's certainly possible, and just be open to that, and kind of, that's a benefit of putting yourself out there and that willingness to talk through.
I think that goes back to what Paul said earlier, is being curious. And I tell even my team today, when you're out there, network. You never know where your connections are going to take you today or tomorrow or in 5 years from now. I met Gartner because I networked with someone 2 years prior at an event, and that got me the job I am in today. So I tell people, always be networking, always be curious. When you're there, go visit every single booth. I think, Kristin, you said yesterday, rank them 1, 2, and 3. But I recommend going and talking to everyone, especially if you don't know the companies, getting to know those companies, and learning more about them. So again, curious and networking.
Yes, don't be, we know that you're going to be going into Expo with a little bit of fear if this is your first time. Not only fear because that you're going to be making a presentation, if that's the case, but even if you're not making a presentation and you've never been to a large event like this, be practiced. know that, I love the example here of, you find a mentor, as was shared with us, but it's also, there's countless stories of individuals that boomerang back to that relationship maybe 2 years from now, as I said previously. You might decide to take a position with one company, but you met somebody at Enactus 2 years previous that you've stayed in contact with, and it's now time for you or your family to move geographically, or your company might be having a change in direction and you want a change. That relationship just continues to snowball for you. So I would highly encourage it. Let me just one quick story on LinkedIn, someone seeking me out on LinkedIn. And you can verify this, but I'm from St. Bonaventure University. That's where I went to school. And 2 years ago, a finance major sought me out on LinkedIn, knew that I was a trustee, knew that I was a graduate and active on campus, and she asked for my advice. One thing led to another. Now, I didn't help her get that job, but I felt we had this mentor-mentee relationship going on for about 6 months, which actually helped her get to that next level. So to the point which was made, you can find a mentor through LinkedIn. You can find a mentor at Expo. You just never know. But just keep, the fear is going to be there. Just try and get over that and practice your elevator introduction, your elevator speech, to make sure that you can make a good first impression.
Thank you. And I see we have another student question, but I'm actually going to kind of speed through a couple of the other points of Expo events, and then we'll get back to that question. So we talked about competition. Another event that I want to promote here today, because it's a new event and it's going to be a really awesome opportunity, is called the Project Showcase. So located in Hall A, where the career fair is going to be open during the hours of the career fair on Monday from 10 to 3 and Tuesday from 9 to 1, we're encouraging Enactus teams to display and showcase early stage project ideas. This is going to be in a poster style presentation, so you don't have to be at the booth the entire time. You can really just put an idea out there, maybe that you're looking for feedback, you're looking to find other students that maybe are passionate about that same idea, and build your network, get feedback. Students, business partners, and advisors are going to be voting on those ideas. So just a quick plug, Project Showcase, talk to your RPM if your team hasn't registered for that. The only other tidbit is that idea, that project idea that you're displaying at the showcase, it can't be one that you're presenting in competition. So they have to be separate ideas. And the other piece of information that I'll add that's a really cool opportunity, particularly for networking with executives, is on that Tuesday morning from 10 to 11, we'll actually have members of the U.S. Advisory Board and final round judges that are going to be going through and spending some time talking with the teams directly, asking questions, providing input. So another great opportunity to be able to put your team out there, put yourself into situations to be able to talk to some of these partners. Another one is the reverse pitch. And this is going to be unique that corporate partners, community organizations, and civic organizations will be pitching problems that they are facing within their business units. And so really unique, the Enactus students are going to be partnered with Enactus students from other teams. So you might be on a team with students from California, Texas, Washington, and Florida. So that's a really unique, awesome networking opportunity. And you're going to be given time to collaborate with some of the faculty members there and those business partners to come up with solutions and then pitch those solutions. That event starts on Saturday from 1 to 5. Sunday's a work day, Monday's an open day, and then Tuesday are the pitching of the solutions. So if you're interested in that, talk to your RPM, go to the Enactus website. It's the reverse pitch, and I think we're still taking applications on that until the 14th. So last but not least of the event is the Top to Future Top Luncheon. This is on Tuesday from 12 to 1:30. It's a really incredible opportunity to get FaceTime with, high-level executives who have a lot of experience. We're going to be giving 2 tickets per team. So, talk with your advisor, figure out your team of how you're going to determine who's going to go. But those tickets will be in your registration packet. It'll be a luncheon, so you'll be sitting at a table with other Enactus students, with business executives sitting next to you, and there's going to be a topic that you are basically given the opportunity to discuss. So look out for that, and we encourage you to attend. Okay, so we're coming up to the final part here. We're going to go into the career fair, have time to talk about career fair, but I want to get back to the question. Kyun Doan from Worcester State. So this is a question we see it sometimes from some of the students on our teams. So basically the question is saying that, what are the opportunities for international students? What advice would you have for an international student to either find an internship or a job in graduation with the issue of visa sponsorship? What advice or what suggestions would you give for students in that position?
I'll go. So I would say for us, it depends on what your degree is in. So if you're getting a degree in anything STEM related, typically like computer science, computer engineering, something like that, we have no issues with sponsorship, and we welcome students that need sponsorship for those roles. Unfortunately, we have to save all of our sponsorship spots for those type of roles. So it can be difficult for any other degree that they're getting if it's not STEM related.
For us, I would say that if we're hiring internally, I would agree exactly with what Kristin said. We have the ability, if we have the opening and the need for that type of an intern to bring. Now, if we're talking about summer employment where it's not an internship, but one of our clients needs a temporary or a project professional, that's difficult for us to because we're more the agent, if you will, in that situation. So we would not sponsor. But if it's internal within Robert Half at one of our one of our offices, and there's an opportunity for someone with accounting, technology, finance degrees, I would say that there's a possibility for that to happen.
Yeah, I would say we're in the same boat unless they're STEM majors. We typically don't sponsor, but again, I've hired several folks in the U.S. that go back to like London or Ingham or Japan or India or Singapore or Australia. So again, if you're open to other locations, we definitely have opportunities.
And I would just say too, if you are going back home for a period of time, we do have the opportunity in your home country because we have 400 offices globally, just as Tamara mentioned.
Thank you. I know that's been a question that we get regularly, so thanks for addressing that issue. Okay, so on to really the big event. It's the Expo event that combines the career prep and really the resume and the pitch and all those stuff. So this year the career fair is sponsored by Robert Half, and it's really the designated space for that networking, sharing the resumes. It's going to be, again, open in Hall A on Monday from 10 to 3 and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We all go ahead and kind of introduce Paul that we have this executive Q&A session that Paul is going to be at on Monday from 2:45 to 3:45. Is that correct?
It's 3:15. We're trying to sandwich it in between some of the presentations and some of the rounds of their presentations. So do the best you can if you can attend from 2:45 to 3:15.
And I understand you can, if you attend, you get a chance for a $50 Amazon gift card. So, great opportunity to have a direct session to be able to ask questions direct. So take advantage of the career fair. It's a great opportunity.
And I'm going to make an announcement right now, and I think it's just occurring to me. We're going to make that a Walmart gift card.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we can change the script on that.
All right, I'm noting that. That's a pretty good point. $50 Walmart gift card. So.
Oh, I'm coming by your booth.
Okay, so I guess, questions about the career fair. We've talked about resume, we've talked about LinkedIn. In the actual event, the day of the resume, they've researched companies. What's advice that you have for students about how to conduct themselves, how to have a successful career fair event? And Kristin, we'll start with you if you will, to just talk about what are some strategies? How can you really maximize that day of those 2 days?
Well, I think that, as I mentioned yesterday too, I find it helpful for you to attend both days. So, I would recommend that you try to do as much as you possibly can on Monday. Monday's obviously the longer of the days, being from 10 to 3. But we know that everybody's going to be also competing that day as well. So we certainly understand if you come in and you start a conversation and maybe you've talked to 2 or 3 people that are in the booth and you realize it's cutting into the time where you need to go meet with your team, you need to start doing final practice or help them with Q&A prep, whatever it might be, or especially if you're a presenter. So it's okay to say, hey, I need to go and we're going to be competing here in a little while, but I can come back afterwards, to finish the conversation. So, definitely feel free to come in and come and go as your schedule will allow. Same with, when we offer students to interview, it's okay to say, sorry, I can't interview right now because in 15 minutes I have to, meet with my team, but I can come back at, 2 o'clock and interview at that point or something like that. So I would say also it's really helpful for you to have a copy of your resume. I know sometimes students will have a link that will go to it or a QR code that you can scan. The problem with that for us is we don't always get very good reception in convention centers. So sometimes being that technically savvy can be a little bit of a challenge in a convention center. So I always recommend that you have a copy of your resume. Typically what we will do is we'll take a picture of it and upload it and attach it to your file. So you can actually just take that copy back with you and take it with you. But I would recommend that you have many, many copies of your resume so that as you go into the booth, you can give that to anybody who's interested in taking it. Again, make sure that you looked at your resume. It doesn't have any errors on it. Anything like that. It's okay to also bring a card, that has your contact information on it as well. Maybe it has a link to your LinkedIn or something else. So those are some of the big suggestions I would give. Thank you,
Kristin. Paul, and I guess, we're kind of coming up to the end of the hour, so this is closing statements, but how to maximize the career fair, and then kind of one of the other components I know we discussed yesterday was the follow-up on the career fair. So if you could share with us, please.
Well, I would agree with everything Kristin just said. Have many copies of your resume, make sure that it's picture perfect, it's proofed, and that you're really truly have an idea geographically where you'd be interested in working. The big question that I see that's unanswered is, if we've got 48 states that we cover in many countries, if you're saying, well, I'm open to all 50 states, maybe have an idea of a prioritization. That helps us tremendously. I would say in the follow-up, use your phone. I have a tendency, and I learned the hard way, I've lost business cards. I didn't, and spellings were off. I couldn't find people on LinkedIn. So I actually have a tendency of taking photos from my phone of the business cards of the people that I meet at a convention or a conference like this, and then write a note with that, and then have my follow-up within the next 24 or 48 hours. It's amazing how many people don't follow up after introduction of shaking hands or meeting at a career fair booth. And I would just say, make sure you follow through, because there's a sign right there. Every recruiter, every hiring manager I know loves to be connected with. And it shows that you're interested, you're organized, and you want to proceed.
Thank you, Paul. Tamara, you can bring us home here. Would you please share what are your thoughts on just how to really maximize that career fair, suggestions for, you know, standing out, leaving an impression, and then any follow-up tips?
Yeah, and agree with everything Paul said. And again, I know I've already said this, but again, this is a great opportunity to network with people, again, your peers, companies, senior leaders. I was so impressed the first time I ever went to Enactus, and I couldn't believe the level of C-level or direct to C-level, you know, leaders that were at this event. And again, you know, making sure if you do try to talk to them and talk to them in the appropriate way or not interrupting conversations or anything like that. But again, my biggest piece of advice is, again, network as much as you can while you're there. Get to know as many people. And to Paul's point, as you're networking, always follow up. So when I collect business cards, my follow-up in my mind always is in 48 hours. Again, yours might be 3 or 4 days because of the competition, but I always come back with my stack of cards and I have a thank you or great meeting you note already written out, and I try to network and then connect on LinkedIn, as Paul mentioned, as soon as I leave, or even doing it at the career fair if you have, you know, your iPhone, which most of you have some sort of smartphone, which I did not have back in the day when I was in college, so there wasn't even phones then. I think it was Zach Morris phone. So again, you have technology right in your hand to be able to network and connect with people right away.
Thank you. Well, I feel like we could go on all day on this topic, but we have reached the end of the hour. So Paul, Kristin, Tamara, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise. To all the students on the call, I think, you know, we're having a muted round of applause, but take this advice, prepare, and show up, and, you know, don't be intimidated. Like, use the opportunity. That's why you're going there for. You're going there to network, to meet people. And personally, I appreciate all your time, panelists, and I look forward to seeing you at Expo myself. So thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.